Welcome to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Jones. I am a certified personal trainer, and I'm here to help you achieve your fitness goals without pain. In each episode, I'll share tips and strategies that will help you stay safe and pain-free while you're working out. I'll also interview experts in the field of fitness and pain management. So if you're ready to learn how to stay active and pain-free, then subscribe to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast today. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Pain-Free Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Jones, and today I am joined by Bobby Lollich.
Yes.
A kinesiologist and a yoga therapist who helps athletes and individuals recovering from brain injuries, especially concussions, return to health and perform at their best. Bobby takes a holistic approach, blending smart training with recovery practices that emphasize sleep, nutrition, and gentle movement. She's also the creator of the Highland Dancers Edge, a specialized program designed to support dancers with strength, mobility, and injury prevention strategies. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So I told us a little bit about you. Why don't you go ahead and fill us in on all the good details?
Well, I've been kinesiologist. I did my degree a long time ago, and I didn't end up into the yoga therapy world until I had my own concussion. And I wasn't healing as Western medicine said I should be healing. And it kind of just filled in the gaps and allowed me to tune into my body and listen a little bit more and work with the things was given to get better.
It's important. So if you don't mind sharing, what were the circumstances of you having a concussion?
We were in a motor vehicle accident, a rollover down an embankment. We were heading home for Christmas with our 5 children and a van full of gifts, and just hit some ice and slid off the mountain and down an embankment. And the kids were, a little bit of bruising. One had stitches, and, I worried about the kids. Nobody worries about mom. And didn't realize I actually had a concussion until probably 6 weeks in. I thought I had a sinus infection because I had a headache that wasn't going away. But then I noticed I wasn't sleeping, and I was at work one day and I couldn't comprehend this one sentence email I had. And I'm like, why is this taking me 3 times to read it before I can understand it? And then I spoke to my boss, because I work in healthcare, obviously, with people like myself. And he said, you need an assessment. So I had an OT assessment once I was going through all the testing, I realized, oh my goodness, I do have a concussion. So then we proceeded from there with Western medicine, and they wanted me to stop working. And I'm like, I need to work. I need to do something that's normal, because I had a lot of anxiety, no sleep, headaches, dizziness, you name it, the cognitive, the fog, all of those things. So one thing had to feel normal in my world, right? For me, anyways. And it just wasn't healing. I was 9 months in, and I had been following a yoga therapist. So I contacted her and started to get some success, and then COVID hit. So everything the world changed, but I had a lot more time to sleep. Yeah. And then I approached her again about training, because everything went virtual. I could actually attend the training. And in the process of training myself, through her course, because it was online, I also healed myself, because you do all of the things that you're learning. And
That is so crazy to me, because I think my knowledge of concussions is obviously very limited. And I recall having a few, jumping out of airplanes, smacking my head, those kinds of things occurred. My assumption was that it's kind of like a bruise, that your brain gets bruised and it heals in a few days, and then you're good to go. And I think my first recollection that it could be more than that was there was a guy that played, I want to say, for the Marlins, and he got hit in the head with a baseball. And he talked about a lot of what you're talking about, is that weeks later, he thought he was fine. He was playing balls. He was an outfielder. Somebody hit a ground ball to him, and the ball was actually zigzagging toward him. And it wasn't, but he knew that he was done and he needed to do something. There needed to be an extended process in healing his brain, because he couldn't even bend over to tie his shoes because his head would throb or he would throw up. And I think that a lot of people assume that concussions are just something you wave off.
Right.
So we're wrong.
Yeah. Exactly, and I think part of the concussion symptoms is also a bit of drive to keep going
Mm,
in a weird sort of way. I don't even know what you would call that, but you think you're fine and you think you feel fine, but the whole perception is wrong.
mm,
Like, even just going through this with my daughter currently, we can see what's wrong. She can't see it or feel it,
wow.
right?
So, how does yoga therapy support recovery? Because I mean, and you were in a car accident, this gentleman was hit in the head with a baseball. There's different types of concussions, but what is the core or how does yoga bring all of that to center so that people can actually heal their brains?
So, yoga therapy uses breath, movement, and stillness. So, it's different than a yoga class, right? We look at component movements. How is your shoulder moving? How is your hip moving? So, it's really taking it back to the basics. But I think that stillness part makes you tune into what your body is telling you. Like, a lot of concussion, you can't feel, you can't see. It's cognitive, it's cloudy, it's blurry, right? And you're like, you stop and you're like, "Wait, my head really does hurt." And it's getting worse or it's getting better with, X, Y, and Z. And then you start to notice, what makes it feel better. And then you'll have longer periods of time where it is feeling better. Does that make sense? So it's kind of weird to explain. So there's a lot of different things. And then part of it was also we did a lot of Ayurveda. So
And what's that?
Ayurveda, it's using food as medicine.
Mm.
So not necessarily taking supplements or anything like that, but there's warming foods and there's cooling foods, and so foods that are supportive. So say in the winter, generally in North America, we eat soups and stews, right? Those things are easy to digest in the fall. So our body doesn't have to work so hard. Same thing when you're sick. You want to have things, which we tend to do, right? Have soups and stews when we're sick because your body doesn't have to work so hard so you can focus on healing. So it looks at a bunch of different things and to support you and what works for you to get better. So the two combinations, and for me, structure was important, like sleep and energy management as well. Because there's a lot of fatigue, or at least I had a lot of fatigue with this concussion. So I'd be dragging myself out of bed every day, dragging myself to walk the dogs, right? And then come back and try, well, what am I gonna do for the rest of the day? You can't use all your energy for one thing, so you'd have to wake up and some people use a spoon method. So, how many spoons do I have today? How many spoons does it take to do this task versus this task? So that you don't overdo it every single day, and then by the weekend, you can't move.
And that's something that we all do. I think athletes do that specifically is we feel like there's just one more thing I can get done. And that's kind of crazy that we push ourselves that way because it obviously does not benefit us. And I again, going back to how long it takes you to actually recover from a concussion, which is probably personal depending on, again,
Yes.
the type of injury. But that fact of really, I don't know if most humans know how to meter themselves out so that by the weekend, they're not spent.
Yes. Well, and I think as athletes, we're taught to do more and more and more. It's never they don't teach you rest, to take breaks. Right? Like you said, there's one more thing we can work on, one more thing. So myself coming from an athletic background, I'm looking at my yoga therapist saying, "You're telling me to ignore everything I've learned in my world and switch it completely upside down?" That was hard.
Yeah. Well, you played soccer,
Yes.
and so there is that drive mentality as an organized sport of there's always something to work on.
Yes.
And I don't know if you played during a time was recovery ever a conversation that you had with coaches, athletic trainers, or any strength or conditioning coaches?
No, I think Monday was our we were supposed to run on Mondays. So we had a
Mhm.
game. We traveled when I played university soccer. So Monday was run day. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday was practice. Friday was travel. And if we didn't travel, it was a light practice. And then game Saturday, game Sunday. So kind of Monday,
Right.
not really.
Yeah. So it's definitely not a part of the, methodology of the sport. And I had the same thing. I played softball and I don't remember. I think we had days off, but there was never a conversation about what to do on the days off. It would be, "Oh, well, it's optional for you to go and lift
Right.
weights or work on pitching and catching practices or whatever, those kinds of things." But it was never that, like go lay in your bed or go stretch or go sit in a sauna or breathe or do
Mhm.
yoga or something that feeds your body as opposed to always taking.
Right.
So, how did you get into Highland dance?
Well, so both my daughters are Highland dancers, and just now they're older. My daughter's in college as well and still Highland dancing. She's like, "Mom, it's so much harder." Like, and I'm like, "You just got older." Like, you know what I mean? You didn't change that much, but I think it's, the time, they're spending more time in school and a little bit more time in sitting. She also plays soccer. So, dancers are really tuned into their body, so they're really fun to work with because they've already kind of got that concept. So, that's how I ended up working with her and then her dance teacher and then making this course for other dancers to use and hopefully keep dancing longer because they are dancing longer and longer. The current world champion, I think it's 8 years, and she has 2 children, which has never happened before.
Okay.
So that's pretty amazing.
Highland dance is extremely athletic.
Yes.
So, how as a kid does your child make a decisions, if there's I gotta go to ballet or I wanna go to Highland dance? Was it a community thing or was it something that you had done or, like,
No, I
how
was
did
a figure skater and a soccer player, not a Highland dancer. My older daughter didn't like to be cold and wet, so we put her into Highland because she got to be dry, and then her younger sister wants to do everything she did, so that's how she ended up doing Highland and soccer. We do have Scottish history. It's from Scotland, so there is some culture in our family.
Okay. It's crazy.
It's very crazy.
You can't just, "Oh, I'm gonna go do Highland dance." I mean, this is something that is pretty darn intense, and so
Yes.
Um, I I already agree that dancers are athletes, but I feel like Highland dancers are probably like the marathoners of dance or something. Like, I don't know you, but because it's probably a little bit more physical than marathon running, but I mean, how long is a show if you're doing a show?
She does competitions, so each dance, they do about 4 to 6 depending on the competition. They're 2 to 2.5 minutes, so it's quite anaerobic, right? And when you're on stage, you're performing and you don't show fatigue or weakness or anything until you get off the stage, right? And their feet are squished into little shoes and they're wearing wool socks. And I think the kilt weighs at least 5 pounds
Holy moly.
and a velvet jacket. So it's hot and it's heavy. It's a bit
And you have
bulky
to smile
and you have to
and
smile the
perform.
whole time.
Yes. So not too different from ballet. You
Right.
have to
Exactly.
in that manner, except that you're wearing 5 pounds of a kilt. That's crazy.
Yes.
So why is there a trend right now that you're seeing with Highland dance? Why is that longevity piece starting to happen, and how does yoga therapy fit into it?
Well, I think just in general, women and adults are trying to do their sports longer. Like when you and I graduated, right? 18, you're done. You didn't do that sport anymore unless you went on to college. But it seems like it's a trend now for people to keep going and doing the things they love a little bit longer. And yoga therapy just brings in those component movements and that awareness. And you don't have to do it for very long. Like you can just spend 5 or 10 minutes doing a few things. Well, what are my hips doing today? Oh, maybe that's why my back is hurting because my hip is compensating in this manner. So you don't have to do hours of it or like go to the gym for 2 hours. You can just do a few minutes or half an hour, however you want to fit it into your lifestyle. That's how I like to promote it, right? It's just something you add into your already existing routine.
Well, and that's the name of my game because I think as a mom that you don't have that time anymore I think as a young athlete you do because it's part of your routine. You have to your coach is telling you this is what you need to do before you come to practice or after practice or whenever they schedule the stuff. And once you have children and responsibilities, you do not have 2 hours to go sit in the gym and do a workout. Plus, you really shouldn't because either you're screwing around or not doing a lot of good stuff, or you're just overdoing it and
Yes.
probably needing multiple days to recover after being in the gym for 2 hours.
Right.
So and
Exactly.
I like little sprinklings of things because that is what keeps people engaged, and it also makes it more of a habit as opposed
Yes.
to a have to, right? It's a want
Yes.
to. "Oh, I want to do this today." And to start off your day doing a couple of corrective movements and settling into your body is a lot better than going, "Oh, I have to go to the gym," and then pushing it out farther and farther into the day, and then all of a sudden you run out of time.
Yeah, and energy, right?
Yes,
If it's a have to, it's gonna take more energy than if, like you said, it's a want to.
right.
Yeah.
So, if somebody is recovering from a serious injury, what are the steps that you believe that they should take in, 1, communicating because you never said anything, right? You just kinda plugged along, you worried about your kids, communicating to your family, because especially with concussion type injuries, and even I think we complain about easier stuff, but I think when things affect our brain, we don't complain as much because we don't know if either people are gonna believe us or they're gonna support us. Those, what do they call invisible injuries are
Yes.
often, looked over. So how do you suggest athletes communicate their needs and get the support that will help them ultimately recover?
Well, I guess you would first talk to your family, the doctor, people around you, and you're right, it does require a little bit of education, which you might not have the capacity to do in the moment. But if you do get that diagnosis, then you can move from there. Make sure they're educated, make sure you're educated, and then put the things in place that you need. Because it was hard to tell my kids, okay, if you don't put the event in the calendar, I'm not going to remember anymore.
Mhm.
Right. So just set your world up so that you feel supported and get the time you need to heal. Sometimes you do have to say no. Sometimes you just have to go to bed. And sometimes, you have to order takeout or somebody else is making dinner that night. And that was hard because, like you said, as an athlete, we're used to not showing weakness, right?
Yes.
You're supposed to just do it all. And a mom, you're supposed to do it all, not take a break or ask for help, any of those hard things.
Yeah. And I think that, and I guess just to add in, because as you were saying it, I thought bringing them with you to their appointment,
Right.
because if you're not remembering things, then it's always nice to have somebody that's there with a notebook who could write down what the directions are and also ask questions that may affect them.
Hmm.
Because if you're not knowing, like you said, especially with a concussion, if I'm not aware of what my body is doing or what I may be doing or what I may be missing, if I have somebody who's observing me and saying, "Oh, no, you did that, and we need to go get you checked out," or whatever it may be, so that way they're able to give you some evidence to help you get the proper care.
Exactly. And then it's
That's
good for them to write down where you were at. And then I would do like sort of a monthly check in or every 2 months. "Ooh, I couldn't do that and now I can." Right? So that you have little milestones that you reach because sometimes it takes so long, it feels like it's never changing.
yeah. That's recovery is definitely not a straight line.
No, not at all.
So, Bobby, if somebody wanted to work with you, how do they reach you?
They can send me an email, bobbilollich@shaw.ca, or look me up on my website, connectionyogatherapy.com.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate this.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Take care.
Thanks.